with DD India.
Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 1 hour. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer unveils 4-point plan to reach peace and defend Ukraine in the London summit as European leaders close ranks to spend more on security. Vladimir Zelenskyy says Ukraine remains ready to sign minerals deal with the US after a White House pact. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to chair the National Board for Wildlife meet in Gujarat's Gir National Park on World Wildlife Day. The 97th Academy Awards ceremony underway at the Dolby Theatre in Los Angeles. Conclave, Anora, Emily Perez among the winners. In sports, India beat New Zealand to set up semi-final clash against Australia. Kiwis to face South Africa in the second semi-final of the Champions Trophy 2025. In a pivotal moment for Ukraine, European leaders gathered in London this Sunday, pledging to ramp up defense spending and stand united in their commitment to Kyiv. With conflict escalating on multiple fronts, leaders have committed to strengthening Ukraine's defense, focusing on a strategic plan to bring an end to the conflict. A detailed report ahead.
UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, alongside French President Emmanuel Macron, proposed a partial one-month truce between Russia and Ukraine. This truce would suspend attacks on air, sea and energy infrastructure but would not halt ground combat.
First, we will keep the military aid flowing and keep increasing the economic pressure on Russia to strengthen Ukraine now. Second, we agreed that any lasting peace must ensure Ukraine's sovereignty and security, and Ukraine must be at the table. Third, in the event of a peace deal, we will keep boosting Ukraine's own defensive capabilities to deter any future invasion. Fourth, we will go further to develop a coalition of the willing to defend a deal in Ukraine and to guarantee the peace.
Starmer also announced an additional $2 billion of UK export finance to secure more than 5,000 air defense missiles for Ukraine. This summit comes just days after the US president's public confrontation with Zelenskyy, questioning Ukraine's willingness for peace, a move that raised questions about future American support for NATO.
I don't think the format of what happened brought something positive or additional to us as partners. I don't want to discuss what happened. I understand that. I don't want to talk about why it happened. I only want to highlight why I also understand. I don't think we should continue building strong relationships in this format. I'm sure that this situation will pass and there are more important things ahead. If all of us are going to be constructive moving forward, I think we can await a positive result. And if my understanding is right, positive is when we are making peace for Ukraine closer, all of us.
18 European allies got into a huddle at the Lancaster House, with leaders urging a strong response besides emphasizing the importance of ensuring that Ukraine's military strength remains intact post-conflict. There were calls to maintain unity in the NATO ranks also.
The important thing is that everyone here has clearly reaffirmed that they want to support Ukraine. Russia's aim has always been to establish a government in Ukraine that dances to Russia's tune. That cannot be accepted. Ukraine is a European country that has decided it wants to join the European Union, a democratic and sovereign nation that must remain so.
We had a broad and frank discussion on how to ensure this common goal, how to promote unity, and more importantly, how to prevent divisions within the Atlantic Alliance and the West. It seems to me that there is broad consensus on this. Various proposals are on the table, and I believe that anyone putting forward a proposal at this moment is making a useful contribution. With Europe at a crossroads, this summit has marked a new phase in the international response to the Ukraine crisis. Aarti Rana's report for DD India.
After the meeting of the European countries on Ukraine in London on Sunday, Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk said that European countries are convinced of the need to ramp up defense spending and increase aid to Ukraine.
Everyone is convinced that the Europe has to take on more responsibility and start bearing the burdens associated with building a defense industry, increased aid for Ukraine during the war, and greater spending with NATO on their defense budgets. We are also looking towards March 6 with caution but hope.
Russian lawmakers have scorned the London summit of European leaders, claiming it yielded no viable plan to end the conflict. Konstantin Kosachev, head of the Foreign Affairs Committee, derided the meeting as a desperate attempt to salvage a decade-long policy. He asserted that Ukraine's sole hope lies in improved Russian-US relations. Leonid Slutsky, chairman of the lower house's International Affairs Committee, echoed the sentiment, predicting that the summit would not salvage the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's position after his tense Washington talks. Former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev also dismissed the summit, labeling it as a shameful sight. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has reaffirmed commitment to sign a minerals deal with the US despite the heated exchange with President Donald Trump on Friday. The deal, aimed at jointly exploiting Ukraine's mineral resources, is part of the post-war recovery plan. However, Trump berated Zelensky, demanding more gratitude for US support in the conflict. The meeting ended abruptly with the deal left unsigned. Despite this, Zelensky remains willing to sign the agreement. Ukraine's allies, including the UK and France, have rallied around Zelensky, pledging to support Ukraine's security and proposing a partial truce with Russia.
Regardless of what happened earlier, despite everything, we remain constructive. We thought that the mineral agreement would be signed. On our side, we are ready to sign. Honestly, I think the US will be ready as well. Probably some time is needed to analyze certain things. I just wanted Ukraine's position to be heard.
Meanwhile, Zelensky, while talking to reporters after the summit with European leaders in London on Sunday, said that he believed that he could salvage his relationship with US President Donald Trump after their explosive meeting in the Oval Office, but that the talks needed to continue behind the closed doors.
I think our relations with the US will continue because this is more than the relations during a certain moment. We must be open. Ukraine is not the biggest country in the world, but everyone can see how it fights for its independence and freedom. We count on assistance from the United States of America without a doubt. I think stopping such assistance will only help Putin, and because of that, I think that the United States and representatives of the civilized world, leaders of this world, definitely won't help Putin.
All right, our correspondent Anil Thomas joins us to get us more. Anil, good morning. Now, after the heated Zelensky-Trump spat in Washington, now we see the London summit that took place in Europe to deliberate more on the crisis, Russia-Ukraine crisis. At the same time, this summit has been scorned off by Russia, calling it shameful, in fact. Help us understand the situation at present after the Washington spat. This comes when the European leaders have jointly renewed their commitment and their support to Kyiv. Put all this together, how do you see the situation pan out?
Well, good morning, Preeti. Let's put things very straight and simple. After that big spat that Zelensky and Trump had, it almost looked like that ceasefire talks were in doldrums. But this particular meeting in London, all the world leaders of Europe bathed in good sunshine, surely bring things back into perspective when it comes to talks and talks in the right direction. And I think that's the big takeaway. And the way Europe has reacted to that window of opportunity that Trump has left split wide open, Europe has wasted no opportunity in once again grabbing that moment and making it count, especially when it comes to looking at peace and especially when it comes to looking at ceasefire, something that Ukraine has been looking for but were off the table. I think they have seized the opportunity and they have seized it well. And the 4-point agenda that has been put forward by Stammer, which has been endorsed by Zelenskyy and also by all the other European leaders, clearly leaves a window of opportunity for Russia to accept and for Russia to move on. But having said all that, there has been a change in stance by Russia when it comes to this Russia-Ukraine conflict. Let's also understand Russia for once, as soon as this meeting was convened, Russian Foreign Minister indicated that this particular meeting, most of the problem that the world is facing is caused by Europe. This was not, say, 2 years ago when the Biden administration was there, where they blame for entire world problems or the problems that the world faces today is thanks to the United States. So clearly there's been a change in stance, I think, from the Russian side too. When it comes to handling Europe, they blame Europe for all the problems that the world is facing today, unlike United States. But I think you got to give full credit to the European Union, NATO, as well as the European leaders of various countries that took part in the talks, that the window left split wide open has been taken with both hands, and they look to be in the driver's seat now if talks have to take place any further.
All right, that was about the European unison for Ukraine. But then at the same time, Anil, with the change in stance by the US at the moment, how do you see that impact the Russia-Ukraine conflict in the days ahead?
Well, it's going to be tough to get all of them back on the table. If you look at the stance, the strong stance that Trump and JD Vance have taken, it clearly leaves not much on the table. Let's also understand that the minerals deal was the big talk for which Trump had invited Zelenskyy. One needs to understand that there is close to 22 of the 34 minerals that are critical or that are marked under critical category that are still found in Ukraine. That's not all. Close to 5% of the global supply of rare minerals comes from Ukraine. Close to 7% of titanium, which is very important for the world, it comes from Ukraine. And one takes a look at the larger order. Ukraine has more to offer. But let's also accept the fact, why is US acting tough? Because most of the regions where these rare minerals are found are almost in control of Russia. And Ukraine has not denied that. Regions like Donetsk, Zaporozhye, Luhansk, where the minerals are found in large quantities, are all under Russian control. So Russia is not going to back down from where the positions that they have already captured. Ukraine has made an offer which US bills at almost 1 trillion when it comes to rare minerals, and the amount that can be the amount that Ukraine can look forward to make from it. US is rather asking for a piece of the pie. It's just 1/3. If they build it at 350 billion is what the deal is. That's 1/3 of what Ukraine has to offer. So it's a give and take. But a give and take that's suddenly changing the geopolitical order. You cannot do that in world order when you are a supreme power, when the world looks at you. So US is almost off the table. It will need a bit of convincing from the other world leaders to now push everything back. You will have other mediators come into play. And this role of, a US-Russia direct talks or a US-Ukraine talks that is going to solve the problem suddenly looks off the table. There would be many more players that will come into play, and we'll have to wait and watch how or when this ceasefire comes into effect, because at the end of the day, remember, Trump, when he came to power, he said this is something that he's going to solve in a jiffy. Well, the jiffy is almost a month and a half old, so we'll have to wait for how the next moment will be decided by the other world leaders, who also have a big role to play in this particular
All right,
peace
so the jiffy is taking time, Anil, but then in the midst of it, with the change in the stance of the US, will Russia be able to take any leverage? Will it somewhere strengthen its position when we talk of the Russia-Ukraine conflict?
Well, Russia, if you almost look at what Trump has been saying, and Trump has been saying things that almost looks like the script has been written in Kremlin.
Yes.
But having said that, Trump always decides, or Trump has. If you look at Trump 1.0, when he had negotiated with when he had negotiated in Afghanistan too, he didn't make much headway when it comes to talks then. So in 2.0, you could have expected Trump to be much more refined, but Trump played it to the galleries. I think Trump said, take it or leave it, or he was pushing Zelenskyy to say that your steps could lead to World War III. So, he was rather trying to be bombastic there at the end of the day. And I think Russia understands that it's playing with fire. Russia and US are no allies, but there is a shifting world order that we are seeing, especially in geopolitics. That could be something that Russia would be looking forward to. But all that Russia had leveraged in the last 2-3 weeks, with Trump talking the language that Russia wanted, is suddenly looking a bit jiffy, and Russia suddenly shifting its politics from US to Europe, where they are blaming Europe for all the world problems, is also an indicator of that. But I think we'll have to wait for Russia's next move, because Russia is weakened, but I think Ukraine is in doldrums when it comes to this particular conflict and the timeline that it has followed for the last 3 years. So Russia knows that it's against the wall, but Russia also knows that it has got support from other countries which are powerful, which are G7 countries, and I think Russia still has some time to breathe when it comes to not getting pinned to the wall. And I think they are using that leverage clearly very well on the world scene, and that's what we are seeing this to be playing out, because Russia is doing the talking even when Europe is meeting, because Russia knows that they also are facing the heat when it comes to this conflict getting prolonged as long as it goes on. Because at the end of the day, when this conflict began, it said that Ukraine would be blown away in 3 days, 4 days, maximum 2 weeks. We have seen 3 years of this conflict go on. So Russia knows it's not an easy job ahead. Coming back to the table is the way forward, because the taxes that Russian people are facing are something that is very difficult to surmount. Though the people are quiet, there is a bit of protest in Russia, but overall Russia seems to be feeling the heat, but being able to absorb it. But how long can they go on absorbing this heat is something that even Europe as well as America understands, along with China. And I think that's where this particular game will be played time and again.
All right, Anil, we'll leave it here. Thank you so much for joining in with those details. And Ukrainian President Zelenskyy also met with King Charles III in the Sandringham estate in eastern England after attending the London summit. Both were seen shaking hands with each other in the pictures. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau will meet with King Charles III on Monday to discuss defending Canada's sovereignty amid President Donald Trump's repeated calls for Canada to become the 51st U.S. state. Trudeau said that he hopes to discuss the matters of importance to Canada and to the Canadians. U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, in a Sunday Fox News interview, confirmed that tariffs on Canada and Mexico will take effect this Tuesday. The final decision on their exact levels, however, rests with President Donald Trump. Initially set at 25%, the tariffs could be adjusted at the last moment. Trump is poised to escalate tariffs on China from 10 to 20%, a move tied directly to Beijing's actions or inaction on curbing the deadly drugs flow into the U.S.
So he's sort of thinking about right now how exactly he wants to play it with Mexico and Canada, and that is a fluid situation. There are going to be tariffs on Tuesday on Mexico and Canada. Exactly what they are, we're going to leave that for the president and his team to negotiate. And obviously, I'm talking to him all the time to discuss what that's going to be on Tuesday.
You're watching DD India News Hour. We're heading for a short break. But after the break, Israel stops all humanitarian aid to Gaza as first phase of the ceasefire agreement with Hamas expires. A state of emergency issued in South Carolina as wildfires engulf the Carolina forest.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour. Israel has stopped all humanitarian aid to Gaza after the expiration of the first phase of its ceasefire agreement with Hamas. Israel is pushing for the continuation of the truce, while Hamas has rejected the US-backed extension and is calling for the implementation of the second phase. DD India's Mihir Mekhuri has more on this.
Israel on Sunday blocked all humanitarian aid from entering Gaza after the first phase of its ceasefire agreement with Hamas expired. The move follows Hamas's refusal of a US-backed extension.
Upon the conclusion of the first stage and in the light of Hamas's rejection of the Witkoff framework, we decided at last night's discussion that as of this morning, the entry of goods and supplies into Gaza will be prevented. And it must be emphasized, Hamas currently controls all of the supplies and goods that are being sent to the Gaza Strip.
With the expiration of Phase 1 of the Gaza truce on Saturday, Israel is pushing for its continuation. The focus is on the exchange of hostages in return for the release of Palestinian prisoners, alongside a larger flow of humanitarian aid into Gaza.
They have huge amounts of humanitarian aid there. Probably in the hands of Hamas, it became its number one financial income for Hamas during that time, and they are not going to get it for free.
A proposal put forward by US President Donald Trump's Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff seeks an extension of the ceasefire to cover the Islamic holy month of Ramadan and the Jewish holiday of Passover. However, Hamas has rejected the offer, demanding an immediate move to Phase 2, calling Israel's actions blackmail and accusing them of undermining the agreement. Supporting Hamas's stance, Egypt's foreign minister urged on Sunday for the full implementation of the Gaza ceasefire deal, calling on the European Union to pressure Israel to enforce it. Meanwhile, families of Israeli hostages held in Gaza are urging Israeli Prime Minister to move forward to the second phase of the ceasefire.
Netanyahu, there is no need to extend Phase 1. There is an immediate need to initiate Phase 2.
The current crisis in the negotiations is a deliberate crisis orchestrated and manipulated by Netanyahu.
Earlier, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced that he had signed a declaration to expedite the delivery of around $4 billion in military assistance to Israel. The Trump administration has approved nearly $12 billion in major foreign military sales to Israel, reaffirming America's long-standing commitment to the country's security. Now all eyes are on how mediators from Qatar and Egypt will navigate the current stalemate and work toward resolving the situation. Mihir Mekhuri's report for DD India.
Tensions flared on Sunday as Israeli military vehicles gathered near the Gaza border, coinciding with Israel's decision to block humanitarian aid into the region. In a potential effort to salvage the ceasefire, Israeli officials announced that a delegation will head to Cairo for urgent talks aimed at preventing further escalation in the conflict. The M23 rebel group transferred Rwandan General Gekwerer to the Rwandan army at the border city of Goma on Saturday. Now, the exchange was marked by firm handshakes between M23 and Rwandan officers as military vehicles roared by with sirens blaring. M23 deputy spokesperson Oscar Belinda accused the Tshisekedi government of supporting the FDLR, alleging crimes against Congolese civilians, including violence, taxation and kidnapping. Upon arrival in Gizensi, Rwanda, Gekwerer was searched and placed in a Rwandan army van as journalists pressed him with questions. Meanwhile, Rwandan Army Commander Colonel Joseph Benzize linked the M23's actions to the ongoing crisis surrounding the FDLR's presence in the region. One week after suffering heavy losses in national elections, Germany's Social Democrats SPD have staged a comeback, winning the Hamburg state election. According to exit polls, the SPD secured 33.5% of the vote, maintaining its position as the strongest party despite some setbacks. In a surprising twist, the conservative CDU overtook the Greens for second place, while the far-right AfD gained slightly but remained under 10%. With voter turnout rising, a renewed SPD-Green coalition appears likely. And now we get to updates from the world of entertainment. Hollywood has come together to celebrate the most anticipated event of the year as the 97th Academy Awards has begun to honor the finest achievements in cinema. American television star Conan O'Brien, who is this year's Oscars host, nominees and Hollywood A-listers take to the red carpet with joint favourites Anora and Conclave seemingly poised for a showdown for the Best Picture prize. The competition seems tough this year. In one of his monologues, host O'Brien said that the awards are being watched by 1 billion people worldwide, and the ceremony kick-started with Kieran Culkin winning the Best Supporting Actor for the film A Real Pain. In the animation categories, Flow won for Best Animated Feature, earning Latvia its first Academy Award. Meanwhile, In the Shadow of Cyprus won for the Best Animated Short. In the Writing Awards, Anora, which won the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival, earned directed Jean Baker an Oscar for the Best Original Screenplay. Baker also won for Best Film Editing. Meanwhile, Peter Straughan won for his adapted screenplay for Conclave. Zoe Saldana won the Best Supporting Actors Award for the Spanish-language musical Emilia Perez. Emilia Perez won another award for the Best Original Song, El Mon. In the documentary categories, The Only Girl in the Orchestra won for the Best Documentary Short Film. Meanwhile, No Other Land won for the Best Documentary Feature. Also amid the award buzz, the Dolby Theatre paid tributes to the fearless firefighters for their contribution towards their relief work during the Los Angeles wildfires. Host Conan O'Brien called them heroes. The sci-fi film Dune Part 2, a sequel to 2021 film, earned awards for Best Sound and Visual Effects. In a monumental feat, Firefly Aerospace's Blue Ghost spacecraft successfully landed on the moon's surface on Sunday, March 2nd. This achievement marks the second time a private company has accomplished a moon landing. The compact spacecraft, carrying 10 scientific payloads, touched down near an ancient volcanic vent on Mare Crisium. The successful landing is a significant milestone in the global moon race, with private firms and nations competing to explore the lunar surface. Firefly Aerospace's achievement underscores the growing role of private industry in space exploration. The US and China are also racing to put astronauts on the moon later this decade. Wildfires erupted across South Carolina on Sunday, leading Governor Henry McMaster to issue a state of emergency. Local reports indicated that nearly 4,000 acres had been scorched in almost 200 separate fires. An aerial image of a wildfire was shared on social media on Sunday. The South Carolina Forestry Commission stated that most of the fires have been contained or brought under control, with no injuries reported. A statewide burning ban that prohibits all outdoor burning remains in effect. Disaster struck northwestern Peru on Saturday as intense rainfall caused the river to overflow, wreaking havoc on infrastructure and farmland in Tumbes province. At least 150 families were affected, with images showing homes destroyed and residents struggling through flood waters to find safety. In the hardest hit Corrales district, over 5,000 hectares of crops, mainly bananas, lemons and cereals, were devastated, dealing a major blow to local agriculture. As the crisis deepens, Tumbes mayor has urgently called on the government to declare a state of emergency, enabling swift resource deployment. Meanwhile, regional authorities, along with Peruvian Army and Navy, are racing against time to implement prevention and risk mitigation efforts in the disaster-stricken region. Pope Francis remained stable through the day on Sunday and no longer required the use of mechanical ventilation to breathe. Francis has been in Rome's Gemelli Hospital for more than 2 weeks now. He was admitted on February 14th with a severe respiratory infection that triggered other complications. As the Pope continues to receive treatment, Catholics around the world remain in solidarity, praying for his swift recovery. A quick look at other stories making it to the headlines from across the world. MerMagicCon, the world's largest mermaid convention, was held in Silver Spring, Maryland. The 3-day event offered various activities, including classes, panels, and specialty programs. Attendees could choose from different ticket options, such as the Participant Pass, Observer Pass, and the Guppy tickets for children under 3 years old. The traditional Ukrainian festival of Mesnitsia, marking the end of winter and the arrival of spring, is being celebrated at the National Museum of Folk Architecture and Life of Ukraine. The week-long festivities include traditional games, food, and the symbolic burning of the Diduk sheaf, representing prosperity and the connection between generations. Samba schools paraded annual carnival in an event filled with glitter, music and dancing at Rio's Sambadrome. The parade competition is one of the top attractions of the annual carnival celebrations that sweep the city every year, and each Samba school is made up of a regiment of dancers and drummers. The Samba schools compete in Rio's enormous and elaborate yearly carnival parade, often referred to as the best show on earth. You're watching DD India News. We're heading for a short break, but after the break, we tell you India leads global conservation efforts on World Wildlife Day, set to inspire future generations. Indian Army concludes rescue operations in Uttarakhand. 46 Border Roads Organization workers saved, 8 lives lost. The 7th Jan Aushadhi Divas celebrates India's rich cultural heritage alongside spreading health awareness. How? We tell you ahead.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News. A quick relook at the top stories now. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer unveils 4-point plan to reach peace and defend Ukraine in the London summit as European leaders close ranks to spend more on security. Volodymyr Zelenskyy says Ukraine remains ready to sign mineral deal with the US after White House pact. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to chair the National Board for Wildlife meet in Gujarat's Gir National Park on World Wildlife Day. The 97th Academy Awards ceremony underway at the Dolby Theatre in Los Angeles. Conclave, Anora, Emilia Perez among the winners. And in sports, India beat New Zealand to set up a semi-final clash with Australia. Kiwis to face South Africa in the second semi-final of the Champions Trophy 2025. World Wildlife Day, celebrated annually on March 3rd, highlights the diverse life on Earth and advocates for the protection of endangered species and habitats. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit Sasangir, Gujarat, to reaffirm India's dedication to Asiatic lion conservation through advanced initiatives.
On the occasion of World Wildlife Day on March 3rd, Prime Minister of India Narendra Modi will visit Sasangir in the western state of Gujarat. This visit reaffirms India's commitment to the conservation of Asiatic lion. One of the most significant events during Prime Minister's visit will be the establishment of a state-of-art veterinary hospital in Sasan. This facility will serve as National Wildlife Disease Diagnostic Center and will be a crucial institute in monitoring and preventing diseases that pose a serious threat to the Asiatic lion. As part of the initiative, Prime Minister will also chair a high-level meeting of the National Board for Wildlife. This meeting will focus on strengthening policies for wildlife conservation. Also, a National Referral Center for Wildlife is being established in Junagadh district of Gujarat. Following this, Prime Minister will personally engage with forest staff at Sasangir, recognizing their efforts and discussing ways to enhance on-ground conservation strategies. As nations celebrate the World Wildlife Day, India is once again taking the lead and proving that conservation is not just about protecting species, it's about protecting the balance of nature for generations to come.
India is taking a significant step towards the long-term conservation of Asiatic lions. Gujarat's Gir is set to become a model for conservation efforts worldwide. On the World Wildlife Day, these projects reaffirms India's dedication to preserving its rich biodiversity for the future generation. With camera person Naveen, this is Taposh Bhattacharya for DD India from the Gir National Park in Gujarat.
Today is World Wildlife Day, a day to celebrate the rich biodiversity of our planet and reaffirm our commitment to conservation. India has been at the forefront of global conservation efforts. Under the visionary leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the country has taken several transformative initiatives and set a global benchmark in wildlife conservation. DD India's Tapas Bhattacharya gets us more on this.
March 3rd, World Wildlife Day. A day to celebrate the rich biodiversity of our planet and reaffirm our commitment to conservation. This year's theme, Wildlife Conservation Finance, Investing in People and Planet, highlights the vital role of sustainable funding in protecting our natural heritage. India, home to unparalleled biodiversity, has been at the forefront of global conservation efforts. Under the visionary leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, transformative initiatives like Project Lion, Project Tiger, and Project Dolphin are shaping the future of wildlife conservation. Gir, the abode of the Asiatic lion, has witnessed a remarkable increase in lion numbers from 523 in 2015 to 674 in 2020. With new weed guards, rapid response rescue vehicles, and habitat protection measures, India is ensuring that lions and local communities coexist harmoniously. The expansion of Barda Wildlife Sanctuary as a second home for lions marks a new chapter in sustainable conservation. From 11,000 machans to protect crops, to 55,000 parapet walls around open wells, every step is designed to safeguard both wildlife and people. Even railway safety protocols have been strengthened to prevent tragic lion accidents. With cutting-edge technology, veterinary care, and sustainable ecotourism, India is setting global benchmarks in conservation.
As we celebrate World Wildlife Day, let's pledge to protect our planet, preserve our wildlife, and invest in a sustainable future. Because when nature thrives, we all thrive. With camera person Naveen, this is Taposh Bhattacharya for DD India from the Gir National Park in Gujarat.
India, under Prime Minister Modi's leadership, leads in wildlife conservation. From 3,682 tigers to 675 Asiatic lions, India's efforts are setting global benchmarks. Community participation and key projects like Project Snow Leopard ensure a thriving ecosystem. DD India's Tapas Bhattacharya gets us more on this.
India, with just 2.4% of the world's land, is a biodiversity powerhouse, contributing 8% of global biodiversity. Rooted in a culture of conservation, India, under Prime Minister Modi's leadership, has achieved a remarkable milestone in protecting its wildlife. Home to world's largest tiger population, India now boasts of 3,682 tigers with 57 tiger reserves safeguarding their future. The Asiatic elephant thrives here too, with around 30,000 elephants roaming its forests. India also sheltered the largest population of one-horned rhinoceros, numbering 3,000, and is the only country where the Asiatic lions, whose number have risen from 525 in 2015 to 675 in 2020. The Indian leopard's population has also seen a 75% surge, reaching 13,874 in 2022. Even the reintroduction of cheetahs has been hailed as a conservation triumph. Projects like Crocodile Conservation Initiative have rescued its population of gharials and other crocodiles. Meanwhile, Project Snow Leopard protects the elusive snow leopards with an estimation of 718 in the wild. Local communities are unsung heroes of India's conservation stories. Their effort in shielding endangered species, monitoring wildlife have been pivotal to their success. India's wildlife conservation journey is a testament to the power of culture, community, and commitment. Together, they ensure that these majestic creatures continue to thrive for generations to come. With camera-person Shiv Suman, this is Taposh Bhattacharya for DD India from Gir National Forest in Gujarat.
All right, our correspondent Tapas Bhattacharya joins us to get us more on this. Tapas, we've shown extensive reports of yours telling, informing and acquainting us with the efforts that have been made to preserve and conserve the wildlife. But today, Prime Minister will be visiting Sasangir, Gujarat to reaffirm India's dedication to Asiatic lion. Given the World Wildlife Day today, help us understand what does the day hold for the Prime Minister's engagements there, and also get us more on what do we look forward to.
Well, first and foremost, good morning, Preeti. It's a World Wildlife Day, and we wish every one of our viewers the World Wildlife Day. It's a day to commemorate and understand the importance of wildlife in our natural ecosystem. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has already gone for a safari. We are waiting him. In fact, in a short while from now, we are expecting the Prime Minister to come back from the safari. And it's a place where he has spent a lot of time. Remember, he was the Chief Minister of Gujarat, and from then he worked tirelessly to spread and to strengthen the ecosystem of Gir National Park. This particular area is spread across 30,000 square kilometer area and covering almost 53 talukas and 9 districts of the Junagadh district. So the area, the people out here, they are all part of the ecosystem. Prime Minister Narendra Modi have also spoken earlier about the ecotourism, about the fact that man and animal can stay together in a particular place. And I can tell you that Gir National Park is a classic example of that, because more than 15,000 families are directly or indirectly dependent on this particular national park to provide them the livelihood. So that is one part of it. Another part is, obviously, this is the only place where Asiatic lions can call themselves a home. And we have seen over the last year, few decades, especially the last decade or two, the number of Asiatic lions have increased manifold. There was a time in the 1930s that the number were dwindling to almost 19 to 20. But from then, the numbers have reached to 675. Now we believe that in the next status report, we will be getting the status report of the project line very shortly. We believe the numbers will go up further. So that is one part of it. The second part is that after this particular safari, Prime Minister will be coming here and will take part of in the 7th National Wildlife Board meeting. That's a very important meeting where we expect the status report of many projects that is currently going on, be it Project Dolphin, be it Project Tiger, be it Project Lion. All the projects, the status report will be provided. We believe that some major announcement can also come from that. The other part is that there will be we believe that in Junagadh district there is new Pipli center, there is a new Pipli area where the new referral center will come up, and this is a state-of-the-art referral center, which is what you can say is that it's a, in a layman's term, it's like a All India Institute of Medical Science for the animals, where all the needs of an animal will be taken care of. That kind of a center is we have seen hospitals come up, but these are the centers which will give end-to-end point for all the requirement of an animal, be it their shelter, be it their genome sequencing, be it providing any medical facility for future diseases. All these things will be will come up in this particular natural referral center. And I said, this is one of a kind, not just in India, for the first time, obviously in India, but also one of a kind in globally. So that's one part of it. And as I mentioned, the meeting, the 7th meeting of the National Wildlife Board is expected to be, people are looking forward to that, because it's where most of the importance, most of the important decision will come out. The other part is that Prime Minister will also flag off, symbolically, almost more than 200 bikes will be, they will come into force in the Gir area. So 4 of the women beat patrollers will be given a symbolic flag off by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and after that he will be meeting the forest officials and forest beat of people who work relentlessly, tirelessly, day and night, 24/7 in Gir National Park to provide the animals and the lions a place where they can safeguard them. So he will be interacting with them later on. So the day is packed. Prime Minister Modi is leaving no stone unturned to make sure that the wildlife conservation efforts, which has gained momentum in the last decade or so, takes goes another one notch up in this particular visit.
All right, Tapas, we'll leave it here. Thank you so much for joining in with those details. The Indian Army concluded the search and rescue operations at the Mana area of Chamoli district in North India's Uttarakhand on Sunday. Now, these operations were part of the relief efforts to rescue the trapped Border Roads Organization workers after the avalanche on February 28th. In the operation, 46 workers were rescued successfully and are currently being given necessary medical treatment. The Army said that 8 lives could not be saved despite the relentless efforts by the rescue team. The Indian Army also extended condolences to the bereaved families of those who lost their lives in this tragedy. A quick look at other stories making it to the headlines from across India. On the second day of the 7th Jan Aushadhi Divas themed Jan Aushadhi Virasat Ke Saath heritage walks were conducted at 25 sites nationwide. The walks aim to spread health awareness and celebrate India's rich cultural heritage. Alongside the walks, health camps offering free medical tests and consultations were held at Jan Aushadhi Kendras, highlighting the importance of health and the Pradhan Mantri Bharatiya Jan Aushadhi Pariyojana scheme. To commemorate World Wildlife Day, renowned sand artist Sudarshan Patnaik crafted a stunning 50 feet long sand sculpture of a tiger at the Tadoba Festival 2024 in Maharashtra. The masterpiece created yesterday highlights the urgent need to protect our planet's wildlife and serves as a poignant call to action. World Wildlife Day, observed annually on March 3rd, raises awareness about the rich diversity of life on Earth. We're heading for a short break, but after the break, we take a look at Asian share markets, which stormed on Monday amid the threat of imminent tariffs. Yuki Bhamri and Alexei Popyrin clinched doubles title at Dubai Tennis Championships in a thrilling final. People in Brazil reverberated as they celebrated a Krishna-inspired festival. Stay with us for this visual delight. Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News. Let's get to updates from the world of business now. Asian share markets dithered on Monday as the threat of imminent tariffs lurked in the background, while Bitcoin surged 11.8% as Trump talks of crypto reserve. MSCI's broadest index of Asia-Pacific shares outside Japan was flat, though Japan's Nikkei rose 1.1%, helped by a softer yen. S&P 500 futures and Nasdaq futures both were up 0.1%. The dollar held at 1.44 points Canadian dollar after rising 1.7% last week. Gold prices inched up 0.5%, having dropped around 3% last week. Oil bounced a little amid speculation the US could ease sanctions on Russian output, while the risk of a global trade war could hit demand for energy. After business, we now turn focus to sports. We'll talk of cricket. India defeated New Zealand by 44 runs in their final Group A match on Sunday to set up a semi-final clash with Australia in the Champions Trophy 2025. Chasing 250, New Zealand's strong batting lineup struggled against India's spin-heavy attack. Only Ken Williamson scored 81 runs, playing a well-calculated innings. Captain Mitchell Santner also played some big shots, but he perished while trying to accelerate the run rate. Spinner Varun Chakravarti spearheaded India's bowling attack with a sensational 5 wickets haul. Earlier, Shreyas Iyer led a resilient knock under pressure with 79 runs as India put up 249 runs for the loss of 9 wickets. The men in blue will look forward to the rematch of 2023 ODI World Cup final against Australia, rooting for a different result this time. Kiwis, meanwhile, will take on South Africa in the second semi-final on Wednesday. Speaking after the match, Varun Chakravarti revealed that the victory had special significance for him as he redeemed himself at the very venue where he struggled during the 2021 T20 World Cup. With this standout performance, Chakravarti has cemented his place as a key figure in India's bowling attack as they prepare to face Australia in the semis.
In 2021, we didn't have I didn't have a great tournament here, but I though felt that I did bowl decently, but the results were not our way. But it looks good right now, and Team India is doing well, and the combinations have set very well, so feels good.
The Indian crowd present at the Dubai International Cricket Stadium was excited after the match as they look forward to India versus Australia showdown in the semi-final.
We are very happy that India won. I believe it became a very tricky match when India started losing wickets, especially early on. But then I believe Shreyas Iyer and Hardik Pandya did very well with the bat. And then it became tricky when Williamson was batting. It felt like he might take away the game. But then Varun with the ball, like amazing performance. Absolutely loved it. Now we are looking forward to Australia.
All right, our correspondent Narayan joins us from the newsroom. Narayan, good morning. It was an interesting match yesterday. What went wrong with New Zealand? It was a strong batting lineup, but then we saw them tumble against India's spin attack. What went wrong?
Preeti, the pitch was difficult to play, as we know that among all the 4 venues for the Champions Trophy, Dubai venue is definitely, we can say, that the slow venue, where as the match progresses, is difficult to play because there is no dew during the evening time. And yesterday, India has 4 spinners in their team, and they added Varun Chakravarti in the scheme of things. And that was a trump card for the Indian team. And you take a look, the batsmen, the way they handled the bowlers of the New Zealand team, it was great because they have also the quality spinners like Santner, Glenn Phillips and Bracewell. And taking a look at the Indian batting lineup, Shreyas Iyer scored his slowest 50 because the conditions were difficult to bat. And after that, it was followed by the Kane Williamson's slowest 80 over. It shows that the conditions were different, conditions were difficult. But the way the Varun Chakravarti just changed the things, because at one point in time, it was looking like that the way New Zealand were batting, Williamson was that they were looking in great shape in the match, and it was looking like that they can go to the target, they can reach the target. But the way Indian spinners, especially the way they spun a web around the New Zealand batsmen, they made life difficult for them. So it was on expected line because a score of 250 and 240 was a winning and a difficult target for any team here. So definitely the performance by the Indian team is great, and they continued their winning momentum. And especially after the debacle of the top order failed. It was a rare failure for the Indian top order. But down the order, the way Akshar Patel played, the way Shreyas Iyer played, it was good, and they stitched a fantastic partnership for the India to put things back on track. And after that, Hardik Pandya also played a fantastic cameo of the 45 run. Overall, it's a team effort, and New Zealand was the most difficult team for India. And we know that the way India performed against Pakistan and Bangladesh, they were a good team, but they don't have that kind of potential, that kind of quality to play against the formidable Indian team. But New Zealand was a team. It was the real test of the Indian team in this tournament, and when they will go ahead, when they will face Australia, that's going to be a grudge match, because in 2023 World Cup final, India lost against Australia in that match. So this time around, we are hoping that definitely India will come back with flying colours, and they will beat Australian team.
All right, so India will come up with flying colours. Let's see how the day pans out when it will face Australia in the semis. Thank you so much, Narayan, for joining us with those details. From cricket to tennis now, India's Yuki Bhamri and Australian Alexei Popyrin won the doubles title at the Dubai Tennis Championship after a stunning giant-killing spree. Bhamri and Popyrin edged out Finland's Harri Haliovara and Great Britain's Henry Patton 3-6, 7-6, 10-8 in the final. Now, this was Bhamri's fourth ATP Tour doubles title, but the first ATP 500 one. His previous all three came in the 250 level. For Popyrin, this was his first ATP Tour doubles final at any level. The Australian player, however, has won 3 singles titles in his career, including the Canada Open Masters 1000. Vibrant colors and infectious rhythms filled the streets of Brazil as revelers celebrated a Krishna-inspired carnival. The festival event, in fact, drew inspiration from Hindu mythology and culture, showcasing India's rich cultural diversity. All right, with that, we end this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those of you on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. This app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can download the respective QR codes. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.
बिजली का बिल, किराना